best to keep an eye on the social media stuff like Facebook and YouTube. So I'm going to look at YouTube. Julie's going to keep an eye on Facebook. And whenever we have a comment that's going to coincide with what you're talking about, we're going to raise our hand up so that so we can kind of work in there.
Okay.
That gives you a chance to finish what you were saying.
Okay.
And whatnot.
Okie dokie.
Oh, I'm just waiting for this.
Did the platform fix the podcast?
Kind of. It's better. It's not where it should be, but it's definitely downloading faster and my stuff's uploading. So it's definitely better.
So that people are actually getting them up to date right now, though?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about switching platforms soon, depending on what happens. We'll see.
Hi,
So
Julie.
Figure out what we're doing.
I can't hear Julie.
She's fixing her audio, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I heard you. I forgot.
Now you can hear some static in my background. That'll stop in just a minute.
I can't hear any static.
In the meantime,
do I still have it?
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. What happened last time? You unplugged the mic and replugged it in. It was fine.
It might be because I'm on two things.
That could be. All right, so we're on Facebook Live. Should have started. And let me just check at the YouTube. Oh, thanks for pointing out that feedback last night, Andrea.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, it came in right as you started live, and so I caught it, and I figured it was easier for me to just go to it. And so then I saw it was addressed to you, and I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to see it while you were already live. I thought that might be good to bring up. It was a really nice message, so.
Yeah, well, that was good. I'm glad you did that. And right now we have Mag H in the chat, and we have Shayna. Yay, sup, dude.
Hey.
Let's see. Okay. Is that Jonathan Stomos? I think that's Jonathan Stomos. John
Starklover?
Yeah, Starklover. He is in the YouTube chat.
Is that better?
A little bit.
Okay, that's better.
I'm going to try to get the Bald Move guys on next Thursday. That's my next plan.
Sounds fun.
Invasion. Okay, so we're just working on some audio here, and then we're going to start the show. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I don't know who's in Facebook Live just yet.
iPad.
Anything specific for audio? Try now, Julie.
How we sound now?
Still a little bit. Can you check, Andrea? Or I don't know if you have the ability to check Facebook real quick, see if anyone's in there live yet.
I sure can.
Thank you. Oh, I think. Okay. All right. Loud. Shayna, who's loud? Am I loud? Or is the noise from Julie's loud? Julie's a little bit loud. The noise is loud from Julie. Okay. She's working on it. and then we'll get fired up. And I think we lost Andrea. Yep, we lost her. She must have crashed. I think that when you're on the app, you can't back out. Give me a second here.
Hello? Okay.
Sorry, I was talking to I'm having a guest on Thursday's episode,
Oh, it's fine.
and she's awesome. I had her when we were doing the Ice and Fire Con right after episode 3 aired. We went right into the lobby and I started recording, and the podcast we made. And some of the people watching live already know this. I lost it, which really sucks. But
Oh yeah, I remember you said you guys had like a live
yeah,
thing where you had a bunch of different interviews and you lost it all.
yeah, it was terrible that I lost it all. And I had Lady Gwen from Radio Westeros, and I had Tara on. Yeah, Gwen's awesome, Shayna. So I'm gonna try to have them back on periodically. So I'm getting Nami on first. Nami is a cosplayer who is a speaker at the Ice and Fire Con. She's awesome. And then I'm going to ask Lady Gwen to come back on. And then I'm going to ask Becca, who was a panelist at the Throne at the Ice and Fire Con, who was roommates with Tara. Then I'm going to have Tara on. I'm also going to have the Bald Move guys on. But the Bald Move guys, I think we're going to get them really quick. I think we're going to get them next Thursday. I'm going to try to get them next Thursday, is what I'm trying to do. Julie is distinctively louder than you and Andrea. Yeah, that's because her audio is all kinds of crazy. Let me unlock so she can get back in here. She's been having audio issues, which I'm sure I'm sure you guys realize it. Hello, Elizabeth. If you guys had any idea about how much money I spent in the studio, you would think I'm crazy. Just from all the equipment and trying to get the audio to sound just right. And the trick is that I can only control so many different streams. Yeah.
Been having audio issues.
See, you can hear it right there.
Which I'm sure you.
That's just me. I was turning on my iPad so that I could monitor Facebook
nice.
for you while Julie was indisposed.
Okay, so if you're watching in Facebook, Andrea's going to see who's in there while Julie's getting reset back up here.
There's 18 people viewing in Facebook right now, minus myself.
Anyone in Facebook wants a shout out, go ahead and do a what's up or hello. We're here with Andrea. We're about ready to record the podcast. And we'll have we have a window of a little less than 2 hours. So we should.
Yes. Armani says, wait, was it? Yeah. Armani says the Lady Gwen. And I was going to say, yes, the Lady Gwen.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I can't wait to hear what's going on. Sweet. General Sam in the house. Yep.
Yay.
Hey, Suzanne, Alyssa. Everybody's pretty excited about this show right now. I've been on Facebook all day. So I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning, which is really rare for me because typically I don't go to sleep until like 6 o'clock in the morning. But I did this thing where I stayed up all of Sunday and Saturday night, Sunday, and then almost all the way to Monday. And so then I slept yesterday. So I woke up really early today, and I've been doing my fan fiction, and I have been on Facebook off and on all day, talking with Armani, and
I saw that. I saw
chatting with
that
everyone. You haven't seen half of the conversation. This is also in Messenger.
Oh, shite.
So yeah, it's been a long day for me. So at like 3 o'clock, I thought it was like 9 p.m. and then I realized it was still 4 o'clock my time almost. So that's when I messaged you, because I thought my whole day would have been over by now. Yeah.
I left work early because I wasn't feeling good, and I got home and I slept for a couple hours, and I wasn't gonna miss this, so I wanted to get some rest, and here we are. I was great last night. It was fine, and now I'm sick. It's crazy how that works. Elizabeth says, "What's up?"
Sweet. What's up, Elizabeth? Alyssa wants to know what she missed about Lady Gwen.
I'm going to work on getting her on the podcast. Is what I'm going to try to do, because I had her on an episode that I lost, and I'm going to get her back on. Big Bad Brad, thank you so much for the info. Let's see. We have Big E says, "Good evening, Reavers." Elizabeth says, "Andre and Julie, it's about to get crazy."
Uh-huh.
Shayna, yay, Shayna. "I have the house to myself tonight, so I'm casting y'all to the TV. Cool stuff." That's awesome. Naps are the best. Yeah, I needed one. I needed one bad. So if I sound a little under the weather, I'm sorry.
You don't sound bad at all, actually.
All right, good. Thank you. I feel terrible.
I have my neck crooked because I'm too far into my chat on Facebook right now. It's hilarious.
Now, as soon as Julie gets here, we're going to go live. Yeah, we have 2 Shaynas. That's awesome.
Shaynas are fun.
All
We
right.
have one on Facebook too, usually, don't we? Or is it the same Shayna?
I don't know if the Shayna from... Yeah, the one Shayna is always on Facebook. And the Shayna in YouTube, if you let me know, I don't know if you're on Facebook as well. And she's also casting to her TV also.
Word.
Both Shaynas are doing that. That's awesome. She said the other Shayna used to go on Facebook. Mag, Ice and Fire Con catching up to you, Chris. Yeah, it is. But I think it's allergies, honestly, Mag. I think it's allergies.
Aw, Sam. She has to go already. She said she hates this.
No.
Armani said he likes to call our debates the dance bee on the wall.
That's funny. Gold star.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
Fun times.
Yeah, Conflu. I used to get that a lot when I came back from New York Comic Con. 90. I think it was 90. It was 80,000 people the last time I was there, and it was pretty rough. Ice and Fire Con's a lot smaller, so not only is it better for talking and meeting people, but less chance of sickness. Stefan, Yardley on this episode. Yardley's pretty much on the Monday night show. Strange TV. That's Justin from J Crew. What's up, pal?
What up?
He was our roommate down in Ice and Fire Con, J Crew, because we had John, Jacob,
I heard.
and Justin. It was a lot of fun.
I think you mentioned that.
He's a cool guy. We're starting to get a full house here.
I've never been to New York Comic Con.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
You said that.
Yeah, it was larger than San Diego, because they can hold more people. They redid the Javits Center in New York, and they can hold, I forget, like 100 and some thousand people. So the venue is bigger.
That's a anxiety attack for me waiting to happen.
Yeah, it's shoulder to shoulder. It's an interesting. It's amazing to go, but I usually tell people, unless you're going to see a celebrity, get a picture or something, or you're going for collectibles or comics themselves. I mean, there's a lot of stuff to see and do there, but unless you're going to get something specifically, you can just get everything online.
Yeah.
TV says, yeah, it was the shit meeting y'all. You guys are a great group of people. Thank you.
They're really fun. Really, really, really fun.
I haven't been to Dragon Con yet, Shayna. It's on my list of places to go. And some of the people at the con were saying I should go. Yeah, the auto show is really cool. The Javits Center is amazing. ever since they remodeled it, it's just expensive. And I'm not too far, so it's only like an hour and a half drive for me to get. I take the ferry and I cross over in Jersey because it's fun. Yeah, volunteering is also a good way to go. Yeah, and if anyone wants to volunteer for Ice and FireCon next year, I'll let you know when you can do that. It's a smaller con. It's way more family oriented in terms of like you go there and you guys know I'm more of a show watcher. I'm not. I read the books, but I'm not. I'm not like I don't get into the theories like other people
He's not
do.
me.
Yeah, but they welcome you in, and you don't feel like you're an outcast or an outsider. As a matter of fact, this is a con that that's Andrea's con. Dude, they would love her there.
In Ice and FireCon?
Yeah.
It is, but I have anxiety, people, which is why they're still trying to convince me to go next year.
Shayna, you have the furries. Oh, God bless you. Furry cons, forget that.
Oh my God, those would be so fun. I've never been,
I'd look good.
and I've never dressed up or done any kind of like role play or cosplay or anything like that. But I just think that's so fun, and it's just an interesting situation. I think I could totally go to a furry con. It might be adorable, actually.
Yeah, maybe.
Silly.
Maybe I could do that. We could go as furries together. All right, I'm going to text Julie and let her know to let me know when she's ready to come in. We're going to start. All right. Hit me up. Because I don't want to lose our time here.
Armani, I live in Monterey, California. There is no Comic-Con on Sunday.
Julie, I did not see what you said. What did she say?
Julie said, "Start without me. I had to disconnect stuff."
All right. Julie, let me know when you're ready to pop in. Either in a text message or in the show. All right, cool. Come here, kid. Brian, come here. Give me a hug. Good night. My son's going to come down and give me a hug. He's going to make an appearance.
Aw.
Come here, Pally. I'm about to go live.
Dirty monkey.
No, dirty monkey. All right, good night, pal. I love you. All right.
Oh, sleepyhead.
Yeah. Good night, buddy. All right. Let's see. He's the future of podcasting right there.
Yeah, he is. And YouTubing.
Yeah, YouTube. His Brian. Brian. What is your YouTube channel?
Brian's Toy Box.
Toybox.tv.
How do I know this by heart?
All right. I used to be better at promoting. Thank you, Sabrina. Yeah, he's my little man. And Mag.
He is an intelligent kiddo. I mean, that kid is ridiculously smart.
Okay, let's play some music.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die.
Warning, this podcast contains explicit language and spoilers. This is Behind the Iron Throne, your unofficial Game of Thrones podcast.
Okay, we'll go from here. And 3, and a 2, and a 1, 2, 3. Well, hello. Welcome back to Behind the Iron Throne. This is episode 214, recorded May 7th, 2019. I'm your host, Chris Gray, and tonight we're going to have a very interesting group of people, and we're going to be talking about The Last of the Starks Part 2 from Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 4. We're coming at you live right now on BehindTheIronThrone.tv. We're on Facebook.com/Behind the Iron Throne live. And of course, we're at GetVocal, GetVokl.com for you to join us on GetVocal, which is a really awesome platform. Now, also, like sometimes the after show may continue on GetVocal, so you might want to join us there for the after show when we run out of time. for our 2-hour episode. That being said, I'm glad to be joined again by the wonderful and talented, our very own Mistress of Whispers, Andrea.
Jeez.
What's up, girl?
I'm never gonna escape that, am I?
Never.
Never
What's
up,
happen.
guys?
You're the pro.
Well, thank
So,
you.
this is an awesome chance for us to have Andrea on, and we can kind of go deeper. And keep in mind, we're going to go deeper again. Also, after the season's over, we're going to kind of redo. We're going to re-talk about all this, and I'm going to either have the entire panel together, or I don't know. I'll mix it up a little bit. But real quick, we're going to go over, like I said, The Last of the Starks again in more detail. My sister Julie may be joining us. She's having a few internet issues, but we're trying to get her back in here, or audio issues rather. We have some great people in the chat we're going to be talking to and bringing your questions up with Andrea. And I just want to make an announcement that this coming Thursday, which would be on the 9th, right? 7, 8, 9. On the 9th, we're going to be doing a audience episode. So you guys can comment to us. And I don't know who else is going to be on the panel, but I am going to have a special guest. Her name is Nami. She is Nami, the amazing cosplayer. She does cosplaying in New York Comic Con. She does Dragon Con. I met her at Ice and Fire Con. And I love her take on the Game of Thrones. So we're going to be bringing her on as a special guest. And we have plans to bring other people on, like the guys from Bald Move. I'm going to try to get Gwen from Radio Westeros on here. I want to get Tara back here from Ice and Fire Con. So stay tuned, guys and gals, because we got a lot of people lined up as guests. It's going to be a lot of fun. That being said, let's get into this episode, Andrea. Andrea's going to be watching the Facebook chat. I'm watching the YouTube chat, and I'm watching the Get Vocal. So if you have any questions during the show that pertain to what we're talking about at the time, we will try to read them. Depending on if we see, we don't want to miss anybody's comment, obviously, but we also have to keep an eye on the time and keep an eye on, what fits in that show. And don't forget, Thursday is pretty much a free-for-all. So you guys can pop in on Thursday and say whatever you want to say, and that'll kind of start the conversation. So, Andrea, I gave this last episode 7 out of 10 swords.
Okay.
Julie gave it 5. She was very disappointed with it.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You were in the live chat last night, and she was very passionate about it. I think there's a lot of stuff that you and I agreed on, but before we go into too much detail, we're going to do this kind of backwards, if you will.
Okay.
What's your rating ahead of time? What's your rating ahead of time? And then we'll figure out how, and then we'll go from there.
I'm really going to shock everyone here. I'm going to tell you, honestly, okay, shock value wise, this episode specifically gets 10 swords just for shock value alone. I think that in 8 seasons, this episode is probably easily one of the most interesting episodes I've ever seen. And it doesn't mean that I agree with the content that they, filmed necessarily, but I'm not going to deny that there's nothing about this episode that is fan service. Nothing, which means it's all original. And that's something that nobody has been able to say, period, about the show in 8 seasons, that it hasn't been fan service. And so for that reason alone, it gets 10 swords. I mean, that's remarkable. So, this is probably one of the episodes I hate the most and love the most. I love it as much as I hate it. And that's weird for me to say. And I'm still on the fence about it. And I don't know if I want to give it 10 swords because the viewer in me or the fan in me wants to stay true to the material and whatnot. But I can't deny that this episode kept me on the edge of my seat from the very moment that it started to the very minute that it ended. And for that reason alone, it deserves respect.
Now, for me, it was like I feel the same way in terms of awesome. I liked it, and I also hated it at the same time. It pulled out a lot of feels for me, and I kind of to me it resembled like a ice cream and hot cake sandwich, or like hot cake dessert. Like you have the ice cream that's cold, and then you have like hot fudge brownie, and it was like hot and cold. So I definitely can understand that much. Now we have a couple questions here in comments. Mag H says love-hate relationship is very Game of Thrones, but Mag says, overall, how do you feel show representation of books so far, Andrea?
I think that it's a hard line to walk when you're a book purist and a show purist. And there are certain aspects of the show that I absolutely loathed until I started watching them 85 times in a single season. And now I can look at it and I can see objectively where the show chose to let the book influence it and where it didn't. And you have to have a trained eye in order to see the things that I think that I see. Now, that doesn't mean that I think that the show has stayed true to the books, which I wish that it had in certain places. But in other places, I see that it has. I mean, all in all, the show is the show and the books are the books. And I appreciate them both in different ways.
That's an excellent point. Biggie says, not showing Arya and Sansa reaction when Bran tells about Jon's heritage. They should have showed that in this past episode. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's something that I felt like was detrimental, but they chose not to show it for a specific reason. And I have to sit back and wonder why they chose to keep the big reveal a secret, and how they went about doing it. Because what we do know after the fact is that Sansa is beside herself watching Jon get ready to leave, and Arya already left with the Hound. So it was the moment she knew. I mean, we don't know how much time passed, assuming it was days or not very much time at all. I mean, Arya was gone immediately. Where was she going? Back to assume her list, where she was content to stay in Winterfell prior to. But now all of a sudden she needs to be back on the road again. So something happened in the Godswood. I feel like it was detrimental. We should have known, but they didn't tell us for a reason, and I have to respect that.
Yeah, I felt the same way, Andrea, when the Hound and Arya were riding down the King's Road, and Arya's like, the Hound's like, I'm not coming back, and Arya's like, I'm not either. I had to agree that, I had to believe that it was completely related to the outing of Jon Snow's true heritage. Even though there was all that talk about family, I feel like there was some disappointment there, regardless. So I totally agree. Now, I want to kind of go back into your bullet points here, because I'm curious to know what you think about, like, the funeral speech that Jon made and the farewells that Sansa and Dany had. And I don't know about you, but this is like the first time Jon made a good speech in a long time, where I feel like he needed to make good speeches in this last couple episodes, and he didn't. And in your notes here, I think you and and I wish I would have mentioned this on last night's show also, but the lack of dragonfire. You have a big ass dragon that could have really neat just caught everything on fire. I thought that would have been pretty ceremonial to a Targaryen, but what were your thoughts on this?
So I immediately thought that they were going to use dragonfire. The minute that I saw the mass graveyard, of pyres, I thought, dragonfire, this is how they're going to light it up, and it's going to be beautiful, But then, you watch the scene as it unfolds, and you see, Dany with Jorah, and you can see she's clearly broken. I mean, it's really painful to see, how much it's affected Dany, and then it moves to Sansa. And I'll tell you what, I teared up when I saw, Sansa's reaction to, I mean, it was a little bit much as far as acting, the emotional side. Sophie really, she went all in. But the minute she pulled out her pin and she put it in his cloak, I understood the meaning, you're a Stark, which was basically what Jon told him last season. And I felt like, wow, what a great way to honor Theon. And he deserved it. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so over everything that is Theon. But in my opinion, Theon, he came full circle. He fucked up and he atoned for it. And in the very end, he got what he should have had the whole entire time, which was acknowledgement and acceptance. And that's important. And so what a great way to send him off. Then, when Jon gave a speech, I think that anytime Jon gives a speech is always a good speech. Because Jon is a man of few words. And so when he does finally talk, when he speaks, it's things that you want to hear, but he doesn't always speak, and he doesn't always, give his opinion and whatnot. And in times where he should be more assertive, and there are times where he should shut the fuck up, like he did in the war room, but like he should have in the war room. But he overall, I think it was beautiful, and it was what needed to be said. They fought, they died for us, they're heroes. They saved the world, not just Westeros, not just Winterfell. He didn't minimize the role that they played in it, and I think it was really important. And also, really, looking back and you see all the faces of everyone who's watching, you didn't see a group of people who were looking at wildlings and Dothraki and Unsullied and Northmen that were being, sent to their gods. You were looking at a group of people who fought and found their allies and their friends on the battlefield, and it was, I thought it was really touching. So I really liked that. But then when they went ahead with the torches and they didn't use Dragonfire, it made sense to me that they wouldn't want to use Dragonfire for something like this. The burning of a body is something that should be personal. It shouldn't be something that's, done because it's, convenient. Using Dragonfire would have been more convenient than using a million torches. But in the end, I mean, I think that it was more ceremonial. It was more, it had more purpose to do it, by hand than it did, just having a dragon come in and roast them. So it made sense to me in the end.
That makes a lot of sense when you put it that way. And, Shane is saying the people in the north might not take burning with the dragons well. And like you said, it's very ceremonial. It's that final goodbye. And it was in my opinion, it was a fitting scene for the aftermath of what we had last episode. But it was funny because I was still coming down from that high of, wow, this incredible battle. And then, it was such a low, a funeral goodbye type of scene. I think it was very fitting. And some people complained about that. But the other thing you mentioned that really struck with me is the Theon getting the House Stark pin. And I thought that was a nice nod. And I don't think that, well, I think that most reasonable people can agree that Theon has his redemption arc came to a good close. I hope someone else's redemption arc closes well, although some people are arguing that that's not going to be the case.
I have faith.
I do too. I think you and I both believe that it's going to end the way we think it is. Well, sort of. But we'll get to that. So let's talk about the feast, because there was a lot of really fun moments here, and I think a lot of very important moments. And real quick, I'm just going to do a big shout out to our buddy Kente from Indie Radio. Fellow podcaster who turned me on to Get Vocal, good friend. I love you to death, bud. Thank you for being in the chat. And there are some comments here that are about Ghost and John, but I want to save those for when we get a little bit further into that section. But it was nice to see Ghost. We've got complete confirmation. He's alive, just missing a part of his ear, and he looked pretty beat up. But there he was at the scene of the funeral.
My puppy. So
that was nice to see. I almost wanted to start a new drinking game every time we see Ghost this season to take a drink, but that's not going to bode very well anymore. So we're at the feast, and it kind of starts out somber, and then Dany goes. Well, I thought she was going to fuck with Gendry pretty hardcore, and then we got something else. So if you want to share your thoughts on that, Andrea.
So there are a couple of things here about the feast. Going through and you watch like the inside the episode and whatnot. They say if you mute your television and you watch that scene from start to finish, it's not so much about what's being said, it's about what's not being said. It's about the glances between characters where one's not seeing the other, but it's happening, and then the next one's missing the other glance. It's the unspoken dialogue between characters. So the main thing that I got from that is every single look, every single still shot, every single frame that's stopped and it's paused on is an important moment that we are supposed to see and we're supposed to recognize. Okay. So with that in mind, there were so many different things. They said that the way they shot it was they tried to shoot people in groups. So when one person got up and moved down the hall, you were moved on to the next group, and then the next group linked somehow into the next group. So everything is intertwined. And for Dave and Dan, the most important thing was the unspoken dialogue.
That body language is important. And let me ask you this question. You would have seen this, and I don't think anybody else did when I brought this up last night. When Dany was looking at Jon and those wildlings were kind of like celebrating, and Tormund's like, "Oh, fucking ride on a dragon, just fucking king and crazy, and a king fucking nuts," and they were all like, praising Jon, and Jon's being kind of humble, laughing, but he's humble. He's a humble guy. I really like that about the character. However, when they're panning into Dany and the music's playing, and I almost hear weird, agonizing voices in the song, like it was a stressful song that was supposed to allude to her having a mental battle at that moment. And I don't know if anyone else heard that in the soundtrack, or if that was just me, projecting what I thought was going through Dany's mind.
I did go back and listen, and I didn't hear that. I feel like it was just the noises in the background, the voices, and people talking, and it was just the way that it had been filmed. But because I thought maybe I need to, listen, because it could have been, like Danny's hearing voices, which would have been really interesting, which is the very first thing I thought when I heard you say that was, are they insinuating that Danny's now hearing voices?
What's funny, I picked that up, but I missed the Starbucks cup, and
it was a really, really fast flash, and you
totally missed it.
And they had it edited out every other scene, just that one moment where she looked up and John looked back, and there they are, and she's like, and then you see her face start to falter. So let's see here. I had so many things I wanted to say about that.
2 comments while you're looking at that. 2 comments. Jack in the Box says, agree, Andrea, just rewatched and specifically watched for nonverbal communications. Also, Biggie says, alone in the world is a terrible thing. I'm sorry, a Targaryen alone in the world is a terrible thing. Maester Aemon was right. And Strange TV says, are we supposed to see the Starbucks cup? Product placement promotional opportunity for D&D.
No,
I think that was a total accident, Justin.
That's
funny.
They did it. They released a statement. HBO did. How are they ever going to fix that? It's the one thing that's never going to go away. But HBO, I mean, Game of Thrones is literally epic for this. I mean, the truck in the background, on the frozen lake, the cars in the background, and the play of Bravos. You can literally see them in the background. Peter Baelish's watch when they were in the Vale, and he was trying to convince Lord Royce to go to the Vale. Yeah, they do this all the time, little silly things all the time. So it's when you have that much content and you're trying to make sure, you get it perfect, there's always going to be that one moment that something's going to slip. I mean, it's really unprofessional, but what is it? Would you rather not have the episode? I mean,
yeah, it happens.
I'm not upset about a stupid fucking Starbucks cup. I think it's hilarious, to be quite honest with you. And it's like a hidden bonus for us. You know what I mean?
It's like, where in the world is Waldo? In every season, you have to find that one thing. Some people make a huge deal out of it and like, oh, that took me out. Like, really? Come on.
Okay, so really quick, guys, if you're watching on Facebook, I had to close out the app really quick so that I could open up my notes because there's some things in here that I want to make sure that I don't miss. So hold your thoughts and I'll be back. So the biggest thing that had me spinning was to Arya Stark, the hero of Winterfell. Excuse me, Danny, who the fuck are you? The hero of Winterfell? Can you speak a little bit louder? We're talking about like the hero for the Dawn. She saved the world. She didn't save Winterfell. She didn't save the people in Winterfell. She saved everyone in fucking the world from sudden, almost perfect, complete annihilation. So you don't minimize her role in what she did. And I feel like Danny was trying to, blend in and, blend into her environment, make friends or whatever, but she minimized her role. And the problem is with this is that she wants to be seen as the savior and she's not. And so she's going through all the emotions right now. She lost Jorah, she lost her dragon. Jon Snow is Rhaegar's son. She has been fighting her whole entire life for something that she feels like should be hers, or she's believed her whole entire life, well, at least ever since Viserys died, that it was her duty to, achieve. And now all of a sudden she's here. She lost a dragon, and she lost her old bear. And now basically her one goal is basically null and void at this point. So she's spinning out. And so she's trying to not cause a conflict necessarily, but at the same time, she doesn't want to give Arya complete credit for everything either. And Arya shouldn't have complete credit. I mean, they wouldn't have achieved half of what they achieved had Dany and and Jon and the Unsullied and the Dothraki and the Northmen and the Valemen and everyone been out there in the field outside of the wall. Melisandre and everybody. I mean, they're wouldn't have gotten to where they gotten without all the help that they had. They did need the dragons. They did need Dany. They did need the army, and Dany should be credited for that. But it really pissed me off that she minimized Arya's role in the situation, because Arya saved the fucking world. She didn't just save Winterfell.
I agree.
Pissed me the fuck off. So yeah, that was a big fucking moment for me, and I posted about that. Excuse me, Dany, who the fuck do you think you are? And then the naming of Gendry Baratheon. So everything was fine. Everyone was drinking. Gendry's looking for Arya because he's trying to get a booty call, and he's all psyched out and he's sprung out on Stark, vajayjay, and he's walking by, and Dany is like, how do I make people love me? So she calls upon Gendry, and she makes him Gendry Baratheon instead of Gendry Rivers. But by the way, was never Gendry Rivers in the first place. He was Gendry Waters because he's not from the Riverlands. He's from Flea Bottom. So good job, Dave and Dan, on that one. That was interesting. So then the whole entire thing I'm watching, and I'm thinking to myself, what the fuck is going on here? She's like, who's the Lord of Storm's End now? And he's like, and no one's talking in the hall because they can't tell whether she's about to make a problem where there is no problem, or if she's, got some ulterior motive going on. Go for it, Chris.
Kayleen says, and then naming Gendry, I wanted that to be way more genuine.
Exactly. There was nothing genuine about it. She used Gendry as a pawn, a power play, and Sansa saw it the very moment that Dany started, with the whole entire, I name you Gendry Baratheon, the natural born son, or the natural born son of Robert Baratheon, because that's what I say you are. You're not doing him any favors. You're trying to make yourself look better. Gendry never expressed, his desire to want to be more than he is, or to want to be above the station that he already had. He's a blacksmith. He loved doing what he was doing, but now that he has it, now he thinks, why not? I can have Arya now. I'm not a bastard anymore, this, that, and the third. The problem is that when she did it, when she announced that he was Robert Baratheon's bastard, stop all the commentary, still the fucking screen, and where do you flash to? Jaime Lannister. And the look on his face says, you're Robert's bastard. Why are we stopping on Jaime Lannister? I'm sure everybody in the hall is like, holy fucking shit, we have Robert Baratheon's bastard son in the hall. You know what I mean? But no, we stop on Jaime Lannister. Why? Because Jaime Lannister had a moment of realization. So it goes back to that very first season when Cersei says that she had a black-haired beauty. And then she says to Robert Baratheon, our first son, which was never in the books in the first place. And the show just didn't make that up for no fucking reason. You didn't waste 25 seconds of, showtime in 2 different episodes just to give us fucking lip service for no fucking reason we could have done without. There's a reason why they brought it up. And in my opinion, it's going to play out later. And the Game of Thrones is all about irony. And so the irony in the situation is Cersei Lannister's actual heir is sitting in Winterfell with Dany and Jon Snow, while Cersei is fucking holding hostages in King's Landing and fucking making her own power moves while they're sitting on the heir to the Iron Throne via Cersei Lannister and Robert Baratheon. That's the irony in the situation. The other irony is that Cersei doesn't know that Gendry's alive. I think that Cersei tried to kill her son, and that son was smuggled out of King's Landing, out of the Red Keep, by Jaime Lannister and Varys. If that's the case, then Cersei has no idea that Gendry's alive and that Gendry in the first place was ever her child. But Jaime Lannister does know this now. He realized it. That look was realization. It was clarification. He knew something was going on. And so they didn't speak on it, but that look, that still was important, and it was there for a reason. I don't care what anybody says. I think the plot thickens.
It could very well be. That's an excellent point. Do you think they're going to explore that in the show, or do you think that's going to be a nod to something in the books?
I think they have no choice but to show it in the show, because it's not going to be in the books. I don't think that Cersei's ever going to be Gendry Waters' mom. You know what I mean? In the books, I think that he's literally just a bastard from Flea Bottom. But in the show, they put that there for a reason. There's no reason why they wouldn't have put those 2 sequences in that show for a specific reason. And then to say, my mother had blonde hair, she used to sing to me. That's what I remember. He doesn't remember anything else. But
James Wilcox
go ahead.
Says Jaime was like, shit, this family tree is getting more fucked up. Jack in the Box says Jaime and Varys ? James says, I think they have no choice now they said it. Mag H says, so how does Gendry relate to the Maggie prophecy?
I don't think that they're going with the Maggie prophecy, because they never said that Cersei was going to have only 3 children in the show. They never went into, they said that she would have, 3 children with golden hair and gold would be their shrouds, but they didn't say he will have 6 and 10, you 3. She just said that she'll have 3 children and gold will be their crowns and gold will be their shrouds. You know what I mean? So
yeah, they really dumbed down that prophecy in the show, but I guess it's because they're limited on time.
I mean, they
Oh.
made it work for their own purposes. And
Right,
so
for their own purposes.
So I mean, it's quite possible. You know what I mean? It's a show only thing. Just like with Jon Snow. Next time we see each other, we'll talk about your mother. We didn't have to have that. The show watchers would have been perfectly fine if Ned never said that to Jon because he never said it in the books. You know what I mean? So it's not like it was detrimental to the show from the beginning. It was something they added in specifically, something that will have a payoff later on, and it still will.
Excellent point. Julie, anything from Facebook?
Yeah.
And welcome to the show, Julie.
Hi.
You're muted, by the way. I don't hear you talking.
I hear her a little bit. She's just low.
I shouldn't be muted.
She's very, very low. Okay, while she's trying to figure that out, very low. In the meantime, do you have anything to add to that, or are you able to see Facebook at all, Andrea?
Oh, I'm actually just still in show notes.
Okay, that's fine. So keep on with your show notes.
So,
I'll get Julie fixed up here.
So then there was the body language between Sansa and Dany during the whole naming of Gendry Baratheon scene, and I watched it a few times, and I think what it was is that Sansa understands that Arya and Gendry are close, and Sansa also understands that Arya doesn't care about titles and things like that. And so basically what Dany did was she offered something that was unattainable to a boy who thought he would never have it, knowing that he would accept it. And knowing that it wouldn't mean anything to Arya, and then he would go to Arya and he would try to, basically try to flatter her. And
you went right to her,
and
didn't
he did. Sansa, and that's the thing. Sansa understands this. Sansa, if anything, her and Arya are closer now. I'm sure Sansa knows that Arya and Gendry fucked around because the Hound knew that Arya and Gendry fucked around. He insinuated that he did. I'm watching this, and that's when Sansa gets up and then she hears Dany go, "You're not the only one who's clever." Sansa saw this whole entire thing playing out. She's like, you really think this is how you're going to win people, being deceptive instead of being honest. She has a brother who tells the truth no matter what, whether it wins him friends or not. He's honest, he's honorable. He doesn't tell people what they want to hear. He's not deceitful. So you have one example of a ruler who does all of these things that she respects. And then you have another one who is trying to make people love them through deceit. And even though Dany may not be seeing it this way, it's exactly what she's doing. She's trying to win people, but she's not doing it through actions and deeds. She's doing it through deception. And that's wrong on Dany's part. And so I'm watching the scene with Sansa, and I'm just thinking, okay, this would be a good time for Sansa to actually, try. And then she says, "You're not the only one who's clever," to Tyrion. And I'm like, don't fucking try, Sansa. Don't try. Dany's digging herself a hole. And I love Dany, and I don't want to see Dany, go down the tube. I don't want to see her fall apart. But you're literally watching Dany deconstruct, just as the time frame keeps going. She's just fully devolving as the time keeps going. And it's really sad. So then, let's see here. Then there was Tormund's toast to Dany, to the Dragon Queen. And she jumped up and she was like, "Oh, to Arya Stark, the Winterfell." But I thought it was important that the very first person that was toasted was Dany. I mean, yeah, it was Dany. And Tormund, they didn't minimize her role in it. He, spent his, he wanted to celebrate with Jon, the person who he knows, the person who he has a relationship with, his best friend. He's celebrating with him. He's like, get drunk, drink with me, drink the whole entire thing. And Sansa's even laughing and having a good time. Dany's just all the way pushed over to the side, completely away from everyone. Just,
She seemed very isolated.
She was very isolated. But I think that, obviously that's what they wanted to show, is they wanted to show Dany feeling isolated. So they set her far back from everyone. It was all about optics. But, she didn't engage anyone. She didn't turn her chair to face anybody. She wasn't, open up. She was closed off. She was writing, she was writing at the table when people were up celebrating. When Tyrion's talking to Davos, she was at the table writing instead of communicating with people and getting to know people and, learning her environment and the people that she wants to rule. She wasn't doing any of these things. The same things that Tyrion told Jon he needed to do when he went to Castle Black and he thought he was better than all of his brothers. Learn the people she wants to rule. The same thing that Tyrion told Jon he needed to do when he got to Dragonstone, Dany wasn't doing it. She was keeping to herself. She was closed in. She was shut down, and she was in her feelings, and rightfully so. And maybe it probably wasn't the best place for her at the time. But had she stayed in her room, do you really think that she would have felt any better about the situation?
Look at how Dany and John, how those characters are. Like I just noticed as you were talking, you just kind of enlightened me here. John, everywhere John has gone, he's been able to fit in, and he's been able to befriend people, fit in, befriend, and inspire them to do something. Even with the wildlings, even with the King Beyond the Wall, there was a connection there.
It's like his
and they were
father.
like his father. Danny, ever since she came over to Westeros, lost her ability to do that. At least that's the way it feels like to me, because, and maybe I'm completely wrong here, but it looks like as she has come over, it's been power, 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 throne, throne, throne. And she had forgotten about her big thing about, the big thing about breaking the wheel and, trying to make a just kingdom. And I wonder, it's just something that I noticed, and it really hit home to me when you were just talking, Andrea.
Well, I agree 100%. And I think that if you think about early Dany, she was a lot like the Rhaegar that we are told about in the book. She, walked among the common folk, and she, she didn't care if they touched her. She didn't need her guards. She didn't, feel the need to impose herself on people because they loved her. And so she's sitting there and she's watching the scene with Tormund and Jon. And what is she seeing? She's seeing the moment that the crowd lifted her up and called her Misa and carried her across, the open area of Yunkai. You know what I mean? She saw people celebrating a person that they believed in, who fought for them, who died for them. You know what I mean? Who would have died again for them. You know what I mean? And what she isn't seeing is the same people who lifted her up and called her Misa, because Dany hasn't created those type of experiences in Westeros. She came to Westeros and said, "This is my birthright, so bend the knee." Not, "Let me fight for you. Let me help break the wheel. Let me break all this tyranny from happening right here and right now. Let me save you." She's saying, "I'm the queen of the Seven Kingdoms, and it's mine by right, and I will rule when I get to the Iron Throne." That's not what people who have been fighting for the last 10 years want to hear. That's not what they want. You're not what they want in a queen when you're behaving as such. A queen sacrifices for her people. She doesn't remind her people that she's sacrificing for them. She does it because that's what a queen is supposed to do. And that is what Dany did when she was in Essos. That's not what she's doing now. She's sacrificing people for her.
No, I totally agree. A couple things in the comments here, and Julie, if you have comments in Facebook, I'll give you a second to do it, to get caught up in here. Wow, I really blew past a few of them. I'm sorry, guys. Jack in the Box says Sansa should jump on that to level up, talking about the Hound. I thought that was funny. James says, just like Dorne, I think D&D were telling a bigger story in the first few seasons. Around season 5, they definitely took a turn and went back to link some of the prophecy to the ending they create. James also says, to this point, everything has gone Dany's way since marrying Khal Drogo. She knows up to Westeros, and she was expecting. She shows up in Westeros, and she was expecting open arms, and she's not getting it. Jack in the Box says Dany is socially awkward. James says she doesn't know what to do when people don't submit. Kayleen says, I'm curious to see if and how Dany's storyline plays out in the book to unravel her. Like, this seems like such a disservice to the entire development. And I know Julie agrees with that because we talked about that last night. Biggie says, someone has to check what's in the water at Dragonstone. They make rulers unlikable. First Stannis and then Dany. And people are laughing at that comment. That's awesome. We also have Dany saying, or Biggie says, Dany and Marine to Yara, you can Iron Island independence. And she said yes. And when she dumps Dario, she said she might need to get married for alliances, and she doesn't do it now, which is something we talked about last night. How come they're talking about, Dany being kind of unruly, and she's kind of getting a little bit off kilter here, and they keep hinting at marriage, but no one's talked about marriage to these two people. So that's frustrating.
I think
Kayleen said, sorry, one second. Kayleen says, but she's never been socially awkward like this before. She's focused on claiming that title and not winning the people. She's just whining about them not being head over heels for her.
I think that ultimately this isn't really about people not being head over heels for Dany. I think that Dany would be in a different headspace right now had she not experienced the losses that she did over the last however many days or weeks or however much time it took for that whole entire episode to be filmed. And unfortunately, Dani has never been the recipient of a stable support system. Never. She spent her whole entire life on the run with an unstable brother who convinced her that they were running from assassins and, abused her and disrespected her and sold her basically as a slave, a bed slave, so that he could get a kingdom, and then threatened to cut the baby out of her stomach and, promised that if she, disobeyed him, that she was going to wake the dragon, he was going to beat her. I mean, Dani's never, ever, ever been in a situation where, one, she had people love her because she was their family, for that matter, and two, love her because they didn't expect anything from her. So she doesn't have anybody who she can lean on right now. Okay, so Jon admits, I'm your nephew, I'm Rhaegar's son, but she doesn't. That's not the same as having a family. That's not the same as Jon having Arya and Sansa and Bran.
Right.
It's different because you're just a person who I was sleeping with a few weeks ago, and now all of a sudden you're my family, but we don't have any history. We don't have any past. You're just somebody I met recently. You know what I mean? So who does she run to when, she's at her deepest, darkest hour? She's got a person now who has a claim that's better than her own, who she's supposed to run and tell her deepest, darkest fears to, and hope that he doesn't judge her and say, I'm going to take the throne. You know what I mean? She's got no one right now. She's got her back against the wall, and because of this, she's spinning out. This wouldn't be Dani under normal circumstances, but Dani is breaking under pressure. She's lost too much too soon, and so
Shane is saying, yes, Andre totally agrees.
I mean, this is something I'm pretty open about it because I don't have any reservations about being honest about mental health. I suffer from my own situation. I have anxiety and I have panic disorder, and I take a mood stabilizer so that I don't go from 0 to 150 seconds. I mean, I struggle with, my idiosyncrasies every single day. So when I say that Dani's not mad, I truly mean Dani's not insane. And so when people see her reacting the way that she's reacting, the first thing that they run to is the idea that she's going crazy. And I think that people need to understand that pressure bursts pipes, and there's only so much any person can handle, not to mention a person who has dragon blood in their veins. You know what I mean? There's only so much a person can handle before they break. And so Dani is entitled to this moment where she's not 100% herself, but that doesn't give her the excuse to act callously or be a tyrant. And so this is the problem that I have with Dani in this episode, is that she's completely let go of who she is, everything that she believes in, everything she stands for, and she's becoming everything that she hates. And this is my issue with Dani right now. There are a few times where I was really concerned about it. The parallel when Tormund's toasting Jon and he goes, what kind of a fucking man rides a dragon? A madman or a fucking king? And then the parallel was, you glance back at Dani because Jon hears her say king. Hears him say king. And Dani's like, and it's like a mad queen. You know what I mean? And so you have that, are you a mad queen? Dani's been riding a dragon forever, for however long, but everyone's only seeing that Tormund's toasting Jon for riding a fucking dragon, but Jon's never rode a fucking dragon before. This is something that's brand new to the wildlings. The wildlings didn't decide to follow him because he was riding a fucking dragon. He had a dire wolf, which was a second life fit for a king, but he didn't have a dragon. Now all of a sudden this fucker dies, comes back to life, and he rides fucking dragons too. You know what I mean? So of course they're
Wasn't it funny? Do you remember what Yardley said last night in the live? He was like, Dani's been riding dragons for so many years now, and nobody praised that part. And I think that was kind of funny, but it's also, like you mentioned earlier, that those wildlings in Tormund, they're friendly with Jon. Like there's a relationship built there. And while they're still trying to get to know the Dragon Queen, I just don't want to see, I agree. She's triggered. And a lot of people in the comments are saying triggered and they're definitely going along with that. But I just don't want to see Dani. I don't want them to write her as a mad queen, because I think that she's just going through the normal motions of a human being trying to struggle with balancing power and being a human being at the same time with all the loss that she's facing.
And which is a good time for Danny to step back and just say, this isn't me. This isn't for me right now. And unfortunately, Danny's not equipped with the tools to be able to step back and say, you know what, it's not worth it. Because at this point, she's sacrificed so much that she's just going to sacrifice everything. And that's not stable. But
can I just make a quick comment?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
The person in the YouTube that said that everything's gone her way, I have to disagree with that, because if we look at it, you know, and it's exactly what Andrea said. She was sold as a sex slave, and Danny, if you want to be my sex slave, I'm all for it. Because damn, you hot girl, especially in this season. Her brother treated her like shit. She loses she gets Khal Drogo only, and it was not a pleasant bedding ceremony. I mean, we all remember that was really, really difficult, right? And then so she loses Khal Drogo, loses her baby, gets cursed by a witch, you know, goes and gets locked. Has these assassins trying to get her that Robert Baratheon sent over there. She has had to overcome so much, even though being on Essos. I don't necessarily think that everything's kind of come to her very easily. She had to break in Marine, and all those places, you know. But Andrea, you're right. She's over here. She's trying to do all this stuff, and it just looks like she's awkward and doesn't know what to do, and this kind of, that kind of. And I agree with Chris. If they write her as a Mad Queen, it does a disservice to her. It does a disservice to the character that is Daenerys Targaryen, you know, and I think that's what's going to make me upset. And Andrea, you're right. What's to say she goes, you know what? Fuck it. I don't want the damn throne. Life was better for me in Essos. Life was better over there. I didn't have to worry about some crazy psycho bitch who chopped off my best friend's head. You know, I didn't have to worry about a guy who everybody loves over me, who his sisters, or what appear to be his sister, won't give me the time of day, won't even talk to me, don't even want to, not even before she walked into into Winterfell. Sansa was already giving her resting bitch face. You know, it's like, she doesn't need this shit. Like, fuck the Iron Throne. I'm just gonna go back to Essos. I'm gonna get on Drogon. I'm gonna save the remaining dragon that I have. I don't fucking need Jon. I don't need all of y'all. And she could just leave, but she's still there. I mean, yeah, she's Chris is right. They've got her in this power hungry cycle, but again, it does a disservice to her.
So I don't think that she's in a power hungry cycle. I think that she's spinning out. She's losing power, so she's fighting to regain power. She feels like she's losing all the control, all of the things that she built. So it's sending her spiraling. It's different. It's not quite the same thing as reaching for power, being power hungry like Tywin Lannister or Cersei Lannister. That's not where Dany is coming from, and that's not really her goal here. Dany is coming from a position of having all of this power to losing it very rapidly. It's like when they were walking to the dragon pit and they said, must have been a really big joke at the end, only to house dragons basically that were the size of cats. They weren't extraordinary once they lost their dragons. They were just Dany says they were just normal people like everyone else, right? Well, Dany's going from being this goddess, this like, you know, god level person who's got 3 dragons, who's indomitable, to being just a normal person with 1 dragon by the end of the show. You see what I'm saying? The more that time is progressing, Dany's becoming more ordinary. And that's not something that Dany is willing to accept, because when she was ordinary, she was tortured. She was sold into slavery. She was, you know, beaten. She was on the run. She was scared for her life. She had no control over anything that happened in her life. So these are all the things that Dany's fighting against. Now, when our viewer said that he thinks that Dany's had everything handed to her, she's gotten everything her way, I don't think that he's saying that pre-dragons, everything went her way. It wasn't. And anybody who's watched the show knows that Dany didn't have the best start. But after she got her dragons, Dany doesn't know very many losses. Why do you think she had so many braids? Why do you think that her hair is so long? Because she doesn't know losses. She knows victories. And so these losses that she's taking are harder for her to swallow than anything else, because she was so confident of herself when she set sail from Essos to Westeros.
Yeah, but remember, she also set sail with 3 dragons, and now she's down to 1.
Right,
She
because she was
is
overconfident. Because she doesn't know the people, she doesn't know the land, she doesn't know the terrain, she doesn't know the customs, she doesn't know half of the things that she swears that that she doesn't know half of the things that she thinks she knows that would prepare her to be a ruler in Westeros. This is the problem for Dany. Dany thinks that she can go to Westeros and she can rule the same way that she ruled in Essos. She can't. Westeros is not the same as Essos. It doesn't have the same people. It doesn't have the same religions. It doesn't have the same factions. It doesn't have the
Totally
same
different.
customs. It's a completely different place. Dany went to Westeros assuming that she could just pick up where her family left off. She doesn't know the first thing about ruling or being a citizen of the country of Westeros. She doesn't know the first thing about it. This is why Dany is the oddball out. And instead of, accepting, the advice or saying, you know what, you're my nephew, I'm in love with you, why don't you marry me and we rule together and you can help me be the ruler that I know I can be. Instead, she's saying, I want you to forget everything you know, the identity that you just learned you have. I want you to continue to be nobody, a bastard, so that you can't take my throne. It's not your throne, Dany. You didn't earn it. You didn't conquer it. You don't deserve it. You don't deserve it right now because you don't know the people. Rather than give your people rest, you want them to march because you have inhuman unsullied who never complain about anything. We're trained for that specific reason. But you don't know the people of Westeros and you mean to rule them. You can't rule them if you don't understand them. That's why you don't deserve the throne. It's not your throne. Now, can she earn the throne? Absolutely. Couldn't she be an amazing queen? Definitely. Absolutely. I have every confidence in Dany to be a kind, just ruler. But from the way that she's behaving right now, she's not deserving of the throne.
Going through some crisis moments, and I think that like through her whole story, she's had to adapt. And I think that I hope some of the like James is saying that don't get your hopes up. D&D making decisions for this character,
Right.
mostly for the bottom line. However, I believe that Dany's character has said to me, here's a trial, overcome it, and make it better. Here's another trial, overcome it, make it better. And I give that character a lot of respect in that regard. I think that she's just running. You make so many good points. I don't even know where to begin. I'm not going to piggyback off of it too much because I want to get to some of the comments in Facebook because we haven't had a chance to read any yet. But I will say that Dany is going through a lot of struggle, and I think it's going to hone her to be a better character. I do not think she's going to go mad. And if she does,
I really hope not.
I think that's just poor writing.
I don't think that Dany's going mad, and I don't think that's how Dave and Dan are writing her. And that's what I think is so important. Is everyone is so upset that they're convinced that they're writing Dany in as a mad character. But up until this episode, up until the long night, we've never seen Dany cry on screen. Not like that. Not like that. That's this is a completely different side of Dany that we've never seen. We've never seen Dany just let go and lose it. Even when she lost her son, she didn't cry like that. Even when she killed Khal Drogo, she didn't cry like that. She literally broke losing Jorah, you know what I mean? And then to see Rhaegal die, you know what I mean? And then Missandei, it's so many things happening all at one time. It's too much. And pressure burst pipes. Sure, like Chris Ennis says, it creates diamonds as well. That's true. But I don't think that's what we're dealing with right now. Dany was already a diamond. I don't think that they're writing Dany in as a mad queen. They're writing her in as a person who's experiencing trauma,
right.
A massive amount of trauma, who doesn't have and never has had the right tools to cope with the type of loss that she's experiencing right now. And it's going to take somebody who actually cares about her, who can break through to her, that will be able to bring her back down. The problem is that
there's nobody.
Dany is literally dominating every single personality in her life right now.
Yeah.
She told John, John says, I wrote this all down. I really wanted to go over this, the conversation between John and Dany in his room. She says, it doesn't matter what you want. What happens when they demand you press your claim and take what is mine. It's not yours, Dany. That's pompous of you. You're my queen. I don't know what else I can say. She says, you can say nothing to anyone, ever. Never tell them who you really are. Swear your brother and Samuel Tarly to secrecy. Tell no one else, or it will take on a life of its own, and you won't be able to control it and what it does to people. No matter how many times you bend the knee, no matter what you swear. And then she reaches out. She takes his hand and she tries to play on his emotions. I want it to be the way that it was. I want it to be the way that it was between us. You want it to be the way that it was between us? It actually just was the way that it was between you. You walked into his room, you took him in your arms, you guys kissed, you embraced, and then the moment that he fucking had a reservation, you go, don't tell anyone who you are. I wish you'd never told me. Now it's your throne, or you're my enemy, or you're my competition, and this, that, and the third. Danny chose to change their situation. John didn't choose to change their situation. Danny chose to change the situation. She had the ability for it to stay the way that it was. She could have said, let's go to your family. Let's tell your family the truth. Let's let them know that you're Aegon Targaryen and that you're the rightful heir to the Iron Throne. Let's be married. Let's be together. Let's rule together. Let's create a dynasty that can last 1,000 years.
She doesn't know how to do that.
She doesn't know how to. Then that is Danny's idiosyncrasy. It's not John's. And so when John went and told Sansa the truth, John wasn't in the wrong.
He was in the wrong.
No, he was not.
He was.
No, he was not. His identity is his. Julie.
He was. I'm sorry. He was in the wrong.
Danny has absolutely no right. I'm sorry. Hold on. Sorry. Danny has absolutely no right to command John.
No. Wait. Time out. Hold up.
Stop.
No, I'm not saying he's in the wrong for telling them. What I'm saying is that he was, listen, he did what he thought he was best for him to do. I get that. He went honorable. He went Ned Stark is what he did.
No, he did what he should have done.
Absolutely not.
No, he did what he should have done.
Come on. He knew Sansa was going to say shit.
So fucking what?
No, I don't know.
Julie. So what if Sansa said something? It's not Danny's right to command.
It's not Sansa's right to say anything.
If Sansa's going to be the Lady of Winterfell, it's absolutely her right to decide who she wants to serve as her queen. You have to understand that is how the Lords of Westeros work.
I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I do not agree with that. What iota? She asked him specifically, don't tell them.
If you ask him, she didn't ask him. She didn't ask him. She commanded him.
You can take it however which way you want to take it. You can take it. She was commanding whatever.
I just told you how it will work. I told you. I didn't ask you how it will work. I told you how it will work. And that's the bottom line. There's no room to talk about this. This is what she said to him. End of discussion. Not up for debate. I told you how it's going to work. This is how it's going to work. Bottom line. It's not Danny's right. She has no right to demand that of him. To be honest with you, Julie, we're being honest, and we're talking about laws and everything that's right and just about Westeros and everything like that. Going back to the reason why laws are and customs are in place in the first place. Danny does not have the right to the Iron Throne.
Neither does Jon.
Jon is the legitimate heir to the Iron Throne.
Until he kills Cersei, nobody has claim to that fucking throne.
Well, we're talking about the bloodline.
Based on the line of succession, Danny's right to the throne does not supersede Jon's because Danny is the sister and Jon is the son. Therefore, Danny has no right to command Jon to not tell his family, his identity. His family. She's his family, and she could have sided with him. She could have decided, you know what, let's be a family together. Let's heal the wounds instead of keeping lies and secrets. Because at this point, whether Jon wanted to fucking tell Danny the truth or not, or Sansa and Arya the truth or not, it was going to come out. The fucking proof is in the Citadel. It's in the Citadel. Sam left it behind.
Well, I'm gonna break in here to let you guys calm down a second because it's getting a little bit heated. And remember, we're on the same team, everyone.
I understand.
Danny. I'm just going to put my 2 cents here for a second. Danny commanded Jon to do something that he can't do, and that's to be a liar. Because him denying who he truly is now that he knows would be the equivalent to him being a flat-out liar. Now, right or wrong, call it what it is. It's a bald-faced lie. He went and told his family because he believed it was the right thing to do. Just like if I had a secret that I needed to get off my chest, it was like, hey, Julie, guess what? I'm adopted.
But if you sit there and tell me, Chris, this is you're sworn to secrecy for it, I can't break that because you and I have a bond.
I agree with you.
So Sansa is in the wrong here. And let's be clear. Jon didn't say it. Jon didn't say it.
But we're not talking about Sansa.
Doesn't matter. Jon didn't tell them.
We're not talking about
Bran did.
Okay, we do not know what Sansa said to...
Doesn't matter. Sansa went Littlefinger. Jon went Ned Stark because he's so fucking honorable.
I don't blame him.
Listen, what happened to the last person that was so fucking honorable? He walked down to King's Landing and has got his head taken off. Okay? This was a stupid move on Jon's part. It was dumb. He should have listened to what Danny told him. He never should have said a word.
Well, either way,
Sansa, he never agreed to it.
And either way it happened. either way, it happened. So the way it plays out in the
Shitty
show,
writing is what it is.
well, no matter whether it's shitty or not, this is what we have to work with. So let's move on to the next topic, which I really thought was going to be interesting to get into. This is we didn't really get a chance to talk about the whole drinking game and Brienne. So we're going to kind of get into that. I enjoyed watching the drinking game with Tyrion and Jaime and Brienne and Pod, and I was actually happy for Jaime and Bronn to get it on, and I was hoping that when Jaime said he was going to stay with Brienne, that was going to stick. But we see that's not going to be the case, and there's a lot of contention about this on Facebook and online, where people are saying that Jaime is a bastard, he's an asshole for leaving Brienne, and I think that on the surface, that's what I felt in the beginning as well. But I feel like he has demons that he needs to take care of, and a lot of people are saying no, he's going down there because he loves Cersei, he's going to be with Cersei, and that may very well be. I don't know. But the fact that we're talking about it means that the show is doing something right, because they're getting us talking about these different topics. And I think that Jaime is going to go down and attempt to do something good. I'm not saying he's going to attempt to kill his sister, because the baby is still in her. I don't think he's going to kill her because of the baby. But I think that he needs some kind of closure. And he's had a taste of what it means to be a good person. He's been on a redemption story arc for how many fucking seasons now? To say that he's just leaving Brienne willy-nilly because he's a fucking asshole, I don't think that makes a lot of sense. I could be wrong. Andre, what was your take of that?
I love Jaime. I have faith in him. I have faith in his character. I have faith in his redemption arc, and I have faith in the fact that Jaime made a decision when he rode away from Cersei that he plans on abiding by. However, I think it was really clever, and I'm not sure if it was you or if it was Yardley or if it was Trin last night who mentioned that Sansa had said she had mentioned, I wanted to be there when they executed your sister. And I think that was the defining moment for Jaime specifically, not necessarily that she had done all these atrocities, but the fact that at this point executing her was happening and it was going to happen soon. And she's still pregnant with his child. And so, if anything, I think that he knows that there's no saving, there's no hope for Cersei. She's going to die. She's going to be executed. That's a fact. I think that for Jaime, though, I think this is him leaving is more about saving his last child, being a father to the last child. I mean, like I said, there was special emphasis on the Gendry moment when they named him Robert's bastard. So imagine him, saying, oh, wow, all of my children are dead, but Cersei still has one that's alive. My last child is in Cersei's belly right now, and they're going to her atrocities. So what is he going to do? Jaime's going to go and try to at least figure out a way to not have his child be murdered, because that's all Jaime can do at this point. Now, he listed all of the things that Cersei is. She's hateful. Things he's done for her. I pushed a boy out of a window. I would have murdered every man, woman, and child in Riverrun just to get back to Cersei. I'm hateful. He gave Brienne all of the reasons why she shouldn't fuck with him, why she shouldn't care. And all that did was remind me of the moment that Tyrion pushed Shae away, specifically for her own good. Now, Jaime made a decision. He chose to stay with Brienne in Winterfell versus going back to King's Landing, knowing that if Cersei survived, that Bronn was coming back to kill him. You know what I mean? He made a decision to stay with Brienne, knowing that it could mean his death, rather than going and figuring out a way to put an end to it all in the first place. And then only when he found out that they were going to execute Cersei did he, decide to ride out. Because I think at that point, it wasn't quite decided that Cersei was being executed. I think Tyrion was still hoping for the idea of her peacefully removing herself from the throne. He's even still pushing for it at the end of the episode. So the idea that Cersei would be executed for Jaime was something that he hadn't, I don't think, expected. It's all very, very set up. Jaime's not the asshole that everyone's painting him out to be. He didn't leave Brienne because he wants to break her heart. I think that Jaime truly does care about Brienne. Brienne is she's the image of what he wants to be. I've never slept with a knight before. I've never slept with anyone before. Well, then you have to drink. He was so nervous because he didn't feel deserving of her. I mean, you watch their body language. He walked into the room. The first thing he said was, "You didn't drink." she drank. She was drinking the whole entire fucking time. The last time she didn't drink was when she was asked if she was a virgin, and she was clearly drunk. She stood up and she goes, "I need to piss." You know, she was fucked up. But you know,
That's the first time Jamie's been with a woman other than Cersei.
yes, it's the very first woman that he's ever been with other than Cersei. He was nervous. He was completely out of his fucking element. He's used to Cersei. He's comfortable with Cersei. It's never awkward with Cersei. It was awkward from the moment that Jamie walked into that room because he knew what he intended on doing. He knew what he wanted to do. He just didn't feel deserving of her. He didn't feel like he was worthy of her. You know, she's a knight. She's everything that he's never been. She's chivalrous. She's honorable. She's, you know, she's kind. She protects the innocent, and, you know, she defends the, you know, the weak. She's all of the things that Jamie wanted to be, but never felt like he was. And so it was very awkward. He was sweating. He wanted to remove his coat. He needed a drink. He started, you know, feeling hot. He was complaining about the, you know, the fire, but it's fucking cold in the middle of winter. Jamie, you're just nervous. He was nervous. He didn't have a one night stand with Brienne. He didn't just sleep with her and then say, okay, I've had enough, and that's that. That's not what happened in the situation. He made a decision, and he pushed Brienne away at the very last minute because he was trying to keep her from following him, because he was trying to keep her from caring, because he was trying to keep her from pining after him, because he knew he wasn't coming back from this. I think that Jamie knows that he's riding south and he's not coming back. He's not going to live.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I could definitely see him trying to at least halt the execution of Cersei if it comes to that until maybe the baby is born. Because I don't think Cersei is just going to be murdered. I don't. Well, I mean, none of my predictions ever happen. So if you're betting on what I'm doing, then you're crazy. Brody says Jamie pulled the old Coyote Ugly on her. That's funny. I don't.
Yeah,
I just want to say out loud, I meant to say this earlier, that I think that Gwendolyn Christie is probably one of the most gorgeous women that are on the episode, are on the show. I mean, she is literally a gorgeous blonde Amazon. She is stunning. I mean, if you see her not in costume, there's nothing that's not beautiful about Gwendolyn Christie. She's stunning.
And
she's married to a fashion designer too, I think.
She's beautiful.
When you guys see her, when she's not pulling the whole "I'm a knight" thing or I'm a warrior, and she's finally drinking and having a good time laughing, and she's kind of let loose, were some of my favorite scenes of Brienne of Tarth. You know, seeing that other side of her finally, like, loose.
You're drinking wine, but you love you.
Yeah,
I was like, that's so cute.
Fun.
So,
that's
Chris,
so cute.
We do have some Facebook stuff. Robert says Jamie could snap when he finds out Cersei declares that baby is Euron's. Brody says, yeah, he was charged by Ned, if you recall. I think that may have gone back to something else we were talking about. Then I posed a question to everybody. Danielle says, I agree. The baby is the motivator. Carl says Lefty has always put her first, meaning Cersei. And I love how he says Lefty. That's pretty funny. Eric G said she went for the pretty bad boy instead of Tormund, who truly loved her and would treat her like a queen 10 times over. And the giant's milk. Don't forget that. Brody says to me, I'm feeling better about Jamie going down to King's Landing than Brienne. Lots of possibilities. Robert says, I'd like to see him kill Cersei, but die in the process. Irina says, I'm feeling like the writers are not that clever. They basically said he is going back to Cersei. He's addicted to her. I'm not impressed with him right now, but I guess we will see. I feel like, if anything, I could see him trying to convince Cersei to leave with him, to say, fuck it, and just be together, save her from possibly dying. So yeah, I mean, that's actually a really good thought process there.
I did read that article on what they said about Jamie, but again, he said at the very end, he goes, he's going back down there. He, does love her, something to the effect. And then he goes, but that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything else. Of course, because that's exactly what we know right then and there from that episode. We know, basically, we're being led to believe that he's in love with Cersei and he decided he's going back to her, and that's that. But it's never that simple. It's never that black and white. It's never that transparent. It's all in the context that's not being spoken. And I think that we have 2 episodes to go. And I've made some predictions on the page. I'm not going to repeat them here. But I don't think that Jaime's going to kill Cersei at all. It's not in his nature. He loves his sister. He knows exactly who she is. He knows she's terrible. It doesn't matter. He's always seen it. He's always known it. It's not a surprise. He does love her. He doesn't want her to die, but he understands that she can't rule anymore. He understands that this is a mess he has to fix, and he understands that no one can fix it but him. So if he gets there first and he's able to bargain for her life, then that's that. Now, I don't think that they're going to give us all that information. I did read the article. I understand what they're trying to say, but I have more faith in Jamie than that. I don't know.
But
I
Andrea,
like
how does he get into King's Landing?
How does he get
Because
into King's Landing?
no, I'm saying the reason why I'm asking that is because, you know, he turned his back on her and left at the end of the last season, and she was devastated. Like, I think that's the first time we've seen Cersei extremely devastated, because I don't think she thought he would do that.
Do you want to hear my honest answer?
Well, but you know, he leaves and then she sends Bronn to kill the two of them. He's not going to just be able to come walking back into King's Landing like, hey, hun, guess what, sis? You know, everything's good now, hunky dory. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially with Euron there.
You're right.
It's got to be a little odd.
You're right. Daenerys is going to capture him on his way south.
Oh, that's something I didn't think about.
Who else to use against Cersei Lannister than Jaime Lannister?
Especially after now, I would just want to make a comment here. Kayleen says Cersei deserves to suffer. The reason I'm going to bring this up, and I'm watching the chat. I'm trying to work you guys in when I can, but I want to make sure that Andrea gets as much of her information across as possible before we run out of time, because we're looking at we're 3/4 through, so I want to make sure she has time. Kayleen says Cersei deserves to suffer. I don't care. She was already horrible. But she and D&D did my girl Missandei so dirty. Dany and Grey Worm are about to light them up, literally and figuratively. So, and the reason why I bring this comment up in this moment is if Dany does take Jaime on his way to King's Landing, Cersei just had Missandei. Missandei was extremely important to Dany.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Jaime gets captured by Dany, and Dany is used in the same situation, and this is me spitballing for the first time in a long time, could that have the reverse? Could she do this? Could Dany do the reverse to Cersei, which would then push Tyrion over the edge to side more with Varys? That Dany's got to go and Jon has to be in.
So you have a situation where Jaime saved Tyrion, and now you have a situation where Tyrion's going to need to save Jaime, and it's going to be treason. And so there's your first act of treason right there. And he did it for love. He did it for the love of it. He'll do it for the love of his brother. I think that it's all kind of wrapping up. And so all of these things, no, were never mentioned in the show. The treason for love and all of those things, they were never verbally mentioned. But that's the great thing about the show. And this is where I go back to that very first comment that you asked me, Chris, about how I feel, you know, books versus show. It's one of those things that if you're not paying attention, you're not actually seeing the visual visual storytelling actually playing out on screen. And it's happening. It's happening. You just have to watch for the verbal cues or the nonverbal cues. And so that's one of those things that, yes, Dany has had her treason so far. She hasn't finished them, but she's had some of her treason. She's lit so many fires, you know, she's got one more fire to light, one for love, actually. So there's things that are happening in the show. And I do think that maybe Dany's fire for love might actually be her own fire. I was saying this to Armani earlier. I think that Dany needs to step her ass into a fire, if I'm being honest with you, because for whatever reason, fire heals Dany. It makes her strong. And I think that it was just as important when she, you know, lost Drogo and her baby and she stepped into those flames. I think that the flames weren't just for her eggs, they were for her too. It was a part of her rebirth. And I think that Dany is so broken right now internally that she needs to be cleansed.
Andrea, I have a question for you. And this actually, honestly, this came from my mom after we watched the episode, because the losing Rhaegal really just took the wind out of us.
I still can't watch it.
It was just so crazy. My mom had asked me, and I told her, I said, I'll wait till I have Andrea, because she's the only one who can answer the question. That's all the dragon eggs, right? There are no more that we are aware of at the current moment, correct?
Well, in the show, there are no dragon eggs. But in the books, there's an egg at Hightower that belonged to Helena and Aegon's youngest son, Maelor. It was taken from Harrenhal during the Dance of Dragons. There's the egg of White Walls. There is supposedly a clutch of dragon eggs underneath Winterfell. there is supposedly dozens of eggs on Dragonstone that are hidden somewhere in a vault that no one's been able to find since the Targaryens.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, you would think there would be some at Dragonstone.
Well, in the Night of Seven Kingdoms, the book, not the show or the episode, Aegon mentions that there are more on Dragonstone. There are dozens on Dragonstone when he's talking to Dunk about his own dragon egg, which was given to him. It was his cradle egg, or his crib egg necessarily. And every single one of his brothers and sisters actually had a crib egg. And when Aegon the Fifth did his ritual, he actually sacrificed 7 eggs for the 7 gods. And so when you count all the eggs of Aegon the Fifth and his sisters and his brothers, there doesn't account for all of the other eggs that were still supposedly in circulation. So yeah, no, there are definitely possibly more dragon eggs available. And we just don't know where they are, but I don't necessarily know if that's going to come into play on the show.
Okay. Yeah, it was hard. We might as well get right into Rhaegal. That was tough.
Irina says,
that was heartbreaking.
she says on Facebook, okay, so I don't think they will kill Drogon the same way. I think Tyrion or Varys will kill Drogon to prevent the city burning.
God, I hope.
I hope they don't kill Drogon. I don't think that. I'm hoping that Drogon doesn't die.
Does Drogon have to die? Like in the whole grand scheme of it, Andrea, does he have to die?
Well, okay, so a big fan theory is that at the end of it, there'll be no magic left in the world. But the problem that I have with that is that magic was already gone.
Right.
And the White Walkers were still there. And so what was the point of letting magic die out just to bring it back in the first place? I don't think that magic is necessarily the issue in the situation. It's the misuse of magic necessarily. And so, yeah, dragons are a huge advantage against people, normal human beings. And so technically it does create an imbalance. So the idea is that at the end of it, dragons won't exist and magic will be gone from the world. But if the direwolves outlast them all, then magic technically isn't gone because that means warg still exists, etc. So no,
Right.
I don't think that the dragons necessarily have to go. The question is that how do we solve the madness that's associated with the dragons? And I think that
was the inbreeding, right? That was the mixed breeding that the Mad King was doing.
So they blame it on the inbreeding. I don't think it's the inbreeding necessarily. I think it's the fact that the fire runs unchecked within their bloodline. There's nothing to ground the fire.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's just running unchecked, which is why I think the prophecy of the prince that was promised, or the Song of Ice and Fire, was important, but it wasn't important to saving humanity. I think it was important to saving the line, House Targaryen, to something to check the blood, because Jon, there is no madness in Jon. Jon's not mad, and that's something that's verifiable. He's a very calm, very mild-tempered person. He always has been very mellow. I mean, he might be a little bit depressing and sometimes boring.
Rhaegar was too.
Yeah, but exactly, and so is Ned Stark. I mean, it's just in his bloodline. But that's the thing. Jon, he doesn't have that fiery temper. So when he feels like he's completely lost and everything is, falling down around his head, what does Jon want to do? He just wants to go out into the battlefield, fight and die, and not come back. Dany wants to burn the world to the ground. You see what I'm saying? She doesn't have anything to temper her fire. So, I mean, it's my perception. It's not necessarily canon. I can't guarantee it. I don't see a reason why Drogon would have to die, and I'm hoping that Drogon doesn't die. I think that Drogon's going to end up being the last surviving dragon as of right now. I don't know if that means that dragons don't exist going on into the future, but who knows? Silverwing at the end of the Dance of Dragons flew off to Red Lake and made a lair there, and everyone assumes that Silverwing is dead, but nobody actually knows. So who knows? Drogon might do the same thing.
Strange TV, Justin, our friend Justin says, maybe Drogon lays a clutch of eggs at the end of the show for Jon and Dany's child. Also, he says, Rhaegal was such crap. 3 shots on spot in choppy waves. Dany was in line of sight to see Euron's fleet. D&D just needed to waste one. Jack in the Box says, Varys already threatened Dany in 8.4, so I think they'll try to kill Dany. Season 8, episode 4. Try to kill Dany, and Jon will ride Drogon. Big E says Bran's vision about Drogon flying over King's Landing hasn't happened yet. And James says the Maesters or Jake and Hagar. James also says ushers out magic and science.
Yeah, basically that's kind of how it worked out anyways for us, is that we no longer live in a world of magic. We live in a world of science. And so that's basically we're going to see evolution happening. It's a good point on Jack and Agar, because we do have confirmation that Tom Wachilla is going to be in the Dragon Pit area, or he was in the Dragon Pit area when they were filming in the last couple of weeks of filming. So it's possible that the Faceless Men might show up. Armani says the Valyrians were going strong for 5,000 years and there was no temperament there. I wanted to address this really quick. I did explain this some in my fan fiction, and the reason why I feel the way that I feel, but I do feel like the reason why the magic is unground or unchecked right now in House Targaryen has a lot to do with the fact that Aegon Targaryen brought back the ability in their bloodline using wildfire, and it wasn't there was no way to check it. It hasn't been checked since. It's just burning too hot right now. I think that's possibly why Riella wasn't able to have children. We talked about this, I think, last week, Chris. One of the reasons why I think that Riella wasn't able to birth, multiple living children was because of the fact that the fire in her blood was running unchecked based on the magical ritual that Aegon V performed at Summerhall. He woke metaphorical dragons, not physical dragons, and that magical ability is just running wild right now. So I think that it has a huge effect on what's going on with House Targaryen. But Jon is tempered. Jon is different, and I think that that's why the ice is important. However, I don't know what happened pre-Valyria or how they were able to check their magic back then to keep the madness from happening. But I do know that when they came to Westeros, they started interbreeding with different families and different houses, which weakened their bloodlines, which caused this whole debacle in the first place. So yeah, I mean, it's quite possible that madness has to do with the fact that they stopped marrying so closely to one another.
A little bit off topic. Cinto in the Facebook chat says tinfoil. I love the tinfoil people. Qyburn is a child of the forest using a glamour and will turn Cersei, the Cersei into the new Night King.
God, I hope not.
But I thought that was kind of
God,
funny
I
because you
hope
guys
not.
know that I'm not big on the tinfoil stuff. But when I see it, I think it's fun. So I'm trying to help Julie here because she's running into some audio issues, as you guys can plainly hear.
Aw.
So I'm going back and forth between Facebook and YouTube Live. Is Jaqen Arya's second face in her bag? Asks Jack in the Box.
If I can remember correctly, it was the girl and it was Walder Frey. It wasn't Jaqen and Agar in there.
Okay.
But again, Jaqen wore Arya's face when Arya still hadn't given up her face. So it's quite possible that Arya is able to put on a Jaqen face. Who knows?
Irina, I'm sorry if I'm saying her name wrong. Irina. Does anyone feel that Winterfell is vulnerable right now for something to happen?
Absolutely, but they were rebuilding the wall. I noticed that when they were all out in the yard and whatnot. They were working with scaffolding, well, not scaffolding, but stuff to mud and whatnot. So I felt like they were actually rebuilding inside of Winterfell, but there's that whole section of that wall, the outer and inner wall, that's supposed to exist but doesn't exist in the show, that was completely blown out by Viserion. So yes, Winterfell is completely vulnerable right now. It wouldn't surprise me at all if there's somebody there like Bronn, who never left the North, hiding out and planning on stealing Sansa, because it was really sketchy the way that Qyburn approached Bronn, like, go to the North and kill them. But is that all you want me to do in the North, is kill them? I feel like there's something else going on there. So yeah, I do think that Winterfell is vulnerable.
All right, excellent. Armani says, finally, it all makes sense. Now, Aegon IV was actually doing more harm to the blood with his marriage plans. All right, so let me see what we got going on in the YouTube. And Andrea, if you want to, anything that you wanted to talk about for this episode before we go mostly to the audience, if you want to take a lot of questions that are coming in and a lot of comments. So if you want to finish any bullet points that you want to tidy up,
Okay.
and then we'll bring it back to the audience for the last 20 minutes.
So in the feast, there was a moment between Tyrion and Bran that they were talking, and Tyrion was saying, you're the new Lord of Winterfell, and Bran didn't really have an opinion about it, and he goes, you don't want it, and he goes, I don't really want anymore, and Tyrion goes, I envy you, and he goes, you shouldn't. Mostly, I just live in the past. It was the dialogue was really interesting to me, and but the first thing that I picked up on was that Bran is saying he doesn't live in the future. He doesn't really live in the present either. He lives in the past. Bran, specifically Bran Stark, is somebody from his past. It's not somebody from his now. And so the way that I read that is Bran mostly lives in the past. He shouldn't envy Bran moving forward because Bran doesn't have a future moving forward.
Oh, excellent point. Not to mention the fact that he is the wheel creeper, and
I love him.
he can only be wheeled around by Maester. Who's the Maester?
Walken.
What's his name? Walken. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Wait a minute. Maester Walken. I totally forgot his name. Is walking the wheel creeper. That is poetic.
Come here, Chichi.
Oh,
Wow.
that's awesome. All right. Sorry, Andre. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's
So
fine.
ahead.
So yeah, I thought that was interesting. So I think that's foreshadowing. I think that Bran's ultimate end game is the Island of Faces, where he just basically puts himself into the trees, and I think that's that. I'm not quite sure how that works out, with him being the living memory. It's quite possible that Sam's staying in Winterfell to finish writing the history of the last however many thousands of years, and then Bran's done and he's going to go into the trees and be it. But so yeah, I'm not quite sure how that works out, but I'm pretty sure that I read it as Bran's not going to be Bran by the end of the show, by the end of the season. And then let's see here. The Brienne, Jamie, Tormund, Pod did say he was a virgin, basically. He goes, "You're a virgin," and Pod drank first. There was no awkward moment there. No one looked at Pod. They were all looking at Brienne, but Pod brought the attention to himself and he drank. And so basically this whole entire time we think that Pod has a magic cock, and maybe he does have a magic cock. Who fucking knows? But he didn't use it. He didn't fucking use it. He used something else.
He must have done something magical with his tongue or his hand or his foot.
So Trin said that what was he doing? Was he singing to them? And it was actually a really good point. And it wouldn't surprise me if Pod did spend his time singing to them, because why else would the whore send him back with his coin? Time is still used unless they're paying him for something that he did for them, which a minstrel would get paid for coin. So actually, it wouldn't surprise me if Pod did spend his time actually singing to those girls. However, he totally pimped out in this episode, grabbing his two girls. Dave and Dan wanted to make sure that we caught them going off with two chicks on the side. And so good for you, Pod. And he's so handsome now. And I know that everyone thinks that Gendry's hot, but I would much rather do Pod than Gendry. I don't think that there's anything attractive about him. He looks like a skeleton with a 5 o'clock shadow. It's just not attractive.
Well, he
to me.
never looks attractive to me because I don't like.
I understand.
I like Danny.
So yeah, let's see here. Then there was a moment where those little girls were, Tormund was all she left me, which I think was really fun. I laughed so hard when Tormund was like distraught about Brienne. It was. But what was funny about it is that my husband actually fell in love with my niece when she was born. He thought that she was the most prettiest baby that he had ever seen in his life. And he used to beg her to let him pick her up and hold her and love on her. And she was freaked out by him. She kind of, he reminded her of the saber-toothed tiger from Ice Age. When he's, trying to comfort the baby. It was like that type of aggressive, like, I love you, but, aggressively, right? So one day my niece finally let him hold her, and when her godfather, his older brother, walked into the house, she literally threw her arms out to Scott, and Scott took her right out of Danny's arms. And Danny was like, "I've been trying to get you to let me love you for however long, and you're just gonna leave me like that?" So the scene was almost exactly the same as the one that my husband flipped out about. So it was really comical for me. So I thought that was hilarious. But then the girl was like, "I'm not scared of wildlings," and he was like, "Maybe you should be," right? So then that girl came and she sat down and she's like, "Are you ready yet?" And then it cuts over to Sansa, and you can see Sansa, she's watching the girl, right? And the girl looks over at Sansa and she sees Sansa watching her, and then she puts her arm on the Hound, and then the Hound snatches his arm back and he's like, growls at her, "Get the fuck away from me," right? So Sansa, I think, thought that was hilarious, but then she walks over there. But the whole entire time, Sansa was giving her the fucking hairy eyeball, like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean?
Why
so
did
I thought that
Sandor take that? Like, dude, it might be the last night you're alive. Might as well hit it and quit it while you can.
That's true, but I don't necessarily think that's what Sansa was offering him. I did think their dialogue was hilarious. He goes, "I heard you got it. I heard you got it
no,
rough."
not Sansa. I'm saying like with the chick that they sent over.
Because he's too in his head right now about wanting to kill the mountain. When
good
he
point.
said only one thing will keep me, one thing will make me happy, she goes, "And what's that? It's my fucking business." He was talking about killing the mountain.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
For sure.
So he was too much in his head. It wasn't even an option. I think that I just thought it was hilarious that Sansa was like eyeing him up and down like he's a dangerous man at this point. I think that she would have, you know what I mean, if he would have pursued it, but I don't think that she was offering that necessarily. I think that she was just trying to closure maybe. But I also like the fact that he was like, you should have came with me. He's really bitter still about the fact that she didn't come with him and that she married Tyrion and all of these things. You can still tell he's pretty bitter about it. And she finally said to him, if I hadn't stayed, if I had went with you, I'd still be, helpless. I'd still be weak. I'd still be a little bird. I'd be depending on people still to look after me. And I'm not that person anymore. And so I think at that point she realized, no, this isn't what I want. Actually, I think for Sansa, she was so scared of the Hound, when she first met him, and then she was determined to not be scared of him. And then she was still scared of him when he, came to her that night before he left after the Blackwater. I think that for her, approaching him now was her way of finally saying, yeah, that's it. You can't scare me anymore. No one can scare me anymore. I'm not going to be scared of anybody. Bullies can't scare me anymore. It was her saying, killing Ramsay wasn't a fluke. It wasn't just a one-time thing for me. I'm not going to be weak anymore. I'm not going to be intimidated by anybody. That girl that came before Sansa was clearly intimidated by him when he growled at her, and Sansa finally took it upon herself. I'm going to challenge accepted. I'm going to see, if he can still scare me the way that he used to, and he didn't. So I think that was something for Sansa to, take in and actually find her own worth. And it was a good scene. But I thought that it was hilarious. That scene a lot. I thought it was hilarious that, she was like eyeing the girl down like, bitch, why are you looking at him like that? And then there was another moment when Dany, was sitting at the table and she's watching the whole scene with Jon, and then she finally decides she's going to get up and she's going to go, and it kind of focuses in on Varys, and Varys is like watching the whole entire thing go down, and he can literally see every single emotion that's playing across her features. And so at this point that Varys is automatically noticing that she's starting to unravel. And so you can see Varys treason starting to take place, and that message from Kinvara comes back from season 6. If we support the same queen, then you have nothing to fear, which suggested that at some point Varys wasn't going to support the queen. And I said this when we had that episode, actually, Chris, following that it was a hint that possibly he was going to turn against the queen. And then you have the situation where you're watching it play out with Varys in the Great Hall, and you see that, he's getting ready to go against the queen. So now there's going to be an issue. This is going to be the reason why Varys dies in Westeros. He's going to betray Daenerys for Jon Snow. And he made that abundantly clear in the throne room on Dragonstone after the fact.
Do you think he dies?
Oh, yeah, he has to die in Westeros. Melisandre already said she has to die in Westeros, and just like he does. Varys will die before this is all over. Daenerys is going to execute him by Dragonfire. I'm almost positive.
Oh, that's going to suck. Are there any... Yeah, that'll hurt. Well,
no, it won't. It'll be done.
Yeah, well, yeah, if it's that hot, yeah. If you have, is there any more points you wanted to make before some questions from the gallery?
I do want to talk about Arya's rejection of Gendry, but I can wait.
Oh yeah, the shoot down. Yeah, that's the first shoot down we get in the episode.
I love it. Okay, but I can wait. Let's do questions.
Okay, so we have. I'm just randomly picking questions out that caught my eye. No favoritism here. From Facebook, we have from Hera. It's Hera. So I'm sorry if I got your name wrong. What happens to Varys and Jon if Dany finds out Varys is plotting against her in favor of Jon because of his blood?
I think that this is going to put Jon and Dany against each other ultimately, which is going to be the biggest issue here. Everyone expects Jon to talk Dany down, but right now Dany is dealing with a situation where she doesn't quite trust Jon either. So I don't necessarily think Jon has the ability. If Jon had the ability to talk Dany down, he would have talked her down when she commanded him to reject his identity. And he doesn't have that influence over her. Instead, she's the one influencing him the same way that she's the one influencing Tyrion. Tyrion knows right now that she's not right for the throne, but he's so enraptured by her, and her will is so strong that she's bending these men to her will. With Varys, he doesn't have a penis thinking that thinks for him. He is not attracted to her in that situation. He's completely removed. He's completely neutral, so he's able to stand on the outside and look and say, Is she what's best for the realm? And if she's going to murder innocent people, then fuck no, she's not what's best for the realm. And so Tyrion and Jon can't objectively look at it like this. So once Varys starts putting forth, I think this is what's going to happen, is that Varys made his intentions known this episode. He's going to support Jon's claim over Daenerys is because he thinks that Jon is the better option at this point. Daenerys is fucking she's losing it. So he's made it abundantly clear. So now he's going to petition the lords of the realm around Jon. He's going to rally them around Jon, and Jon's not going to know anything about it. But it doesn't matter anymore because, like Daenerys said, once it gets out, it's going to take on a life of its own. There's nothing you can do. You can't rein it in. You know what I mean? So it's going to put Jon and Dany against each other. At some point, they're going to take King's Landing, but it's going to come at a lot of losses, and Jon and Dany are going to be at odds against each other. It's not going to be a pretty situation in the end. I don't know. I hope that they can reconcile, but I just don't know, based on, the things that I've seen from filming and, just the way that the seasons have been progressing. It's just set up for Tyrion to die, Varys to die, freaking Dany's possibly going to die. Jon may just end up fucking walking off or dying, but I don't think Jon dies, honestly. I don't think that that's what they're going to do at all. I just think that it's not going to be that happy ending. It's going to be bittersweet. It's going to be a moment where Dany is going to snap, possibly, and Jon and them have to confine her like Aerys should have been confined, or Dany doesn't snap and Jon does. Who fucking knows? But one of them is going. Not both of them, but one of them for sure is.
Sente says, how many times was Melisandre wrong?
I don't think that Melisandre was actually ever wrong, if we're being honest. I think that it comes down to interpretation. Melisandre's interpretation was wrong, but Melisandre wasn't wrong necessarily. Melisandre saw Renly riding into battle at the Blackwater wearing his green armor, which is why she encouraged him to go to Storm's End first to defeat him there. Only she actually made it happen by making him go to Storm's End first, because Renly is the one who wore, not Renly. Loras is the one who wore Renly's freaking armor into battle. So she saw a vision and she assumed that it was going to happen before they went. So she advised them to go the other direction, and she caused that thing to happen. So she isn't necessarily wrong. She's just interpreting wrong. And so that's really what it comes down to, which is actually a really good point. And I'm actually happy you brought it up, because there was that conversation between Tyrion and Davos during the Great Hall as well about Melisandre and the Lord of Light and him just fucking off after the fact. Which leads me to believe that we're not actually done with that either.
Next question from Robert. Shouldn't Cersei be showing physical signs of carrying baby by now?
I think that she is. When I looked at her, she did look a little thick around the waist. She's just wearing a looser fitting dress.
All right, let me see if I have any questions over here and in the old Facebook. Nope. No, but Biggie says the only one... wait a second, here we go. Jack in the Box says, do you think Arya will live or die? Will she get to kill Cersei, or would it be someone else since she got the Night King?
I think that if they gave Arya Cersei, that it would be fan service, and which I don't like, because I don't feel like this season has been fan service. But
not.
It hasn't been fan service, which is why I think that this season is probably being the most true to the books that since season 2. I don't know that for a fact because we don't know the books, but the fact that they haven't tried to serve their fans in this season, for me, stands out like a red thumb. So if Arya kills Cersei, I think that's basically what's expected. Although I do think that Arya deserves to kill Cersei. She didn't get to kill Joffrey, and fuck her. And she's been on Arya's list for the longest, but there's also that closing green eyes and whatnot. And I think that we can explain that away by saying it's quite possible that Arya is the one who executes Tyrion, not necessarily Cersei. In my opinion, I think that Euron is the one who's going to execute Cersei. And I think it's going to be because he finds out that she's not actually pregnant with his child, that she lied and she tried to cuckold him. So she got away with it with Robert, but she won't get away with it with Euron. And I think that is going to set up a confrontation between Jaime and Euron. And I think that that's how Jaime's going to die. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but I think that it's suggested that Jaime fought the Ironborn during the Siege of Pike. He killed a few of the Greyjoy, of Balon Greyjoy's sons. And he even talked about it to Euron in the throne room when he first came to King's Landing. So I think the fact that they brought that up also suggests the fact that Jaime is going to have a run-in with the final Greyjoy, and he's going to put an end to him. But I think that it's also going to be the end of Jamie too. I think at the very end, Brienne's going to find him, and he's going to die in Brienne's arms, and that's going to be the end of it.
It's going to be a rough fight if he goes against Euron.
But I think the idea that Arya gets all the way to Cersei on her own, I think that it would be lazy writing if they let Arya get to her. I think that Arya is already there. I think that she is in King's Landing. I think that Cersei fucked up when she decided she wanted to leave the fucking gates open. I think that Arya and the Hound are going to fucking murder the Mountain for sure. I don't think that the Hound will be able to do it on his own.
Yeah, definitely not.
I think that Valyrian steel dagger is important to killing the Hound. I mean, the Mountain now, because of the fact that he was brought back through some sort of necromancy and blood magic or whatever the fuck. But and the Mountain's on her list, so I think that she'll get away with the Mountain. But I think for her to get the Mountain and Cersei both, it's just too much for Arya's character. Somebody has to do something. I mean, it's quite possible even Jon's the one who kills Cersei, considering he's the younger child of Rhaegar Targaryen. But Euron's the younger child, the younger brother of Balon Greyjoy. So, I mean, the younger son of Greyjoy. Yeah, brother of Balon Greyjoy. So, I mean, it's the younger one. I mean, whoever's the younger child. It could be Arya. It could be Jon. It could be Bran. It could be anybody. Who fucking knows? But I don't think that Arya is killing Cersei.
Okay, cool. So I want to thank everybody in the chat. Ashley, thank you, who made it to the show. Although you made it. She says, "Hoo, I made it. Hi, all. Great show yesterday. Thank you so much." But we're getting to the end of this one, unfortunately. We only have a few minutes left. Very, very short on time. Now, we are still going to be broadcasting on getvocal.com, GETVOKL, after the show is over here live. So if you want to continue with like a little after show chit chat at getvocal.com, you can. When you get to getvocal.com, just look up Behind the Iron Throne. We should be right there in the front, and you can join us there because we only have a few minutes left before I have to shut down the live on YouTube and Facebook. We're still limited in time, so I'm still trying to figure out how to get that done. They're still working on getting that for us, but we're still going to be live at Get Vocal. And thank you, everyone, for being understanding I'm of my voice, and I'm kind of off my game tonight because I don't feel very good. And it's been a little bit of struggle for me tonight, so I'm very, very sorry. But Andrea, you've done a great job holding down the fort, and Julie, thank you for supporting us here. So Andrea, and if anyone has a sword rating they want to give it in the chat, please start giving your sword ratings now. If you missed last night's episode, it's between 1 and 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. We have about 2 minutes, so pump them in there now on the live if you can. Real quick, Andrea, just let everyone know where they can communicate with you on the regular basis.
The best place to find me is Facebook, hands down. I mean, I was missing for quite a while, but I'm back for now, for sure. And the best place you can find me is right there on RB Tip, our club page, or in my messenger. But if you message me, let me know that you're messaging me about Game of Thrones. Otherwise, I probably won't respond. There's a lot of weird people out here. However, I am on Twitter at _Richards637, same handle on Instagram as well. And you can always reach me at Behind the Iron Throne. On the email, you just send Chris anything, and he forwards them over to me. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, then that's always an option as well.
Yeah, Behind the Iron Throne at gmail.com. Really, really easy. Or if you message us on the Facebook. And I've been responding to some of the messages after the show on YouTube where I can, because I get a notification, and I usually just pop in there and say thank you. We had a lot of good feedback also. So Ashley Jordan is saying 7 swords. Let's go over to Facebook.
Yeah, Irina's saying 7 and Carl's saying 8.
Okay, excellent. So I want to thank you guys. Now, just so you know, on the 9th, we're going to be recording another episode. It's going to be the fan episode. We're going to get your community feedback as much as possible. And I'm going to have a special guest. Nami should be here. She's the cosplayer extraordinaire.
Show, everybody. You do not want to miss
Yeah, Nami's really cool. And we're going to talk more about this episode. I'm going to get her opinion in here. And of course, I want to hear what you guys have to say. So we're going to try to, whatever you guys ask a question on, we're going to make that part of the topic. It's kind of a free for all. It's a very open forum, a very free, open show. Julie, thank you for being here. Where can people find you?
You can get me on my personal Twitter. It's at Julie Gray 22. In the Beat It fandom with all you fine, loving folks. That's where I'll be. Come see me.
Any more Facebook?
Danny says 8.5. Armani says in the books, obviously, but in the show, he's the oldest. Let's talk about Gendry. There's a whole discussion going on about Gendry right now. So I'm going to let y'all, the smart people, take care of that one.
Carl has one too, 8 out of 10. Cinto has 8.5. Irene, 7 out of 10. Irina. And I think that's it. I think we got all of them there. Let me just check YouTube real quick one last time. We're almost out of time. So thank you all for checking this podcast out. BehindTheIronThrone.com, BehindTheIronThrone.tv, etc. We love you guys. Be tit forever. See ya. Peace.
Bye.
Bye, all.